So in this short video we want to have a look at using free-form interactions in Storyline, and what we've got here is an interaction that we want to have our learners complete, which is to do with writing an email. And there are two things actually that we want our learners to do. First of all, we want them to choose the 4 sentences from the selection here on the right hand side that they think are the most appropriate answers to the email that they've got to write, and then they have got to choose the order that they want to sequence those sentences into. And you can see by using a freeform interaction we've been able to format this in a way so that it does approximate an actual email. You can see that you've got the from and the to at the top there, the subject line, obviously the introductory sentence at the beginning there, and then a sign off at the end. So it gives us a little bit more flexibility than if we were just using a pre-formatted drag and drop. And I think actually with the pre-formatted drag and drop options within Storyline, you wouldn't actually be able to do an activity exactly like this anyway, so it gives us a little bit more functionality as well. Now, how do we do this? Well, at the moment all we've got is just basically a Storyline slide with a lot of objects on that slide laid out as we want them to be. So how do we turn that into a drag and drop? Well, it's very easy actually. If we go up to the insert menu and if we click on this button here which says convert to freeform, and then it gives us some options. You can see here there are 6 different types of interaction that we can choose from. The one that we want, of course, is the drag and drop, which is the first one here, which is highlighted. So let's just click OK to that. And you can see that what happens then is that it takes us to what's referred to over here as form view. And in fact, just an important point to be aware of is that you can toggle between the slide view, which is what we were looking at before, and the form view, which is almost like, if you want to think of it perhaps as the back end of the slide, you can toggle between those two views very quickly and very easily there, like that. So let's go back to the form view, and essentially then what we're needing to do is to set up the functionality of the drag and drop. Now, if you haven't done that before in Storyline, it is quite straightforward actually. Or at least the basics are quite straightforward. So what we want to do first of all is to identify what are called the drop targets. Now, in the case of our interaction here, these 4 rectangles here are going to be the drop targets. So we need first of all just to identify those, and you can see there that we've called them container 1, 2, 3 and 4. So let's just put those into the mix. So we've got container 1, 2, 3 and 4 like that. Now what we need to do then is to tell Storyline of all of these draggable items here, which is the correct one to go in here, which is the correct one to go in here, and so on. So first of all then, actually sentence number 4, this one here, is actually the correct answer for this container. Notice as well over here on the right hand side that as we're selecting these items, they are actually being highlighted in red on the thumbnail of the slide. So you've got a little bit of a visual cue or clue here, if you like, as well as having the drop-down list here. For container number 2, actually we do want sentence number 2. For container number 3, we want sentence number 1. And for container number 4, we actually want sentence number 6. Now what we've also done there in putting those into this list, as well as saying to Storyline, okay, this is the correct sentence to go in this container, and so on, we've also made these items draggable, but we also need to make the other sentences in that list on the right hand side of the slide, we also need to make those draggable as well. So let's just make sure that we select those. So you can see there we've got sentence 3, sentence 5. And have you noticed as well, as we're on this left hand side where we're choosing the drag items, have you noticed that as we are choosing those items, they are actually disappearing from this drop down list? So in fact this list does gradually get shorter as you start to add items to the drag item list. So there we go. So what we've done now is we've made all of the draggable items draggable, and we've identified for storyline that these are the correct sentences to go in each of these 4 containers. Okay, now there is quite a bit of other stuff that you can do up here with drag and drops, which we're not going to look at here, but you would probably want to explore those if you were building a drag and drop interaction like this. But let's, for the purposes of this video, let's just go back to the slide view. And a couple of things actually just to point out. Notice that here, once we converted to freeform interaction, Storyline also added this functionality, which is a correct and an incorrect slide layer. Now, these are actually rather basic. These are the default kind of layers that you get within Storyline. It's quite likely that you might want to create your own layers which are a little bit more sophisticated and perhaps have a little bit more space to put in feedback. Again, we're not going to have a look at that within this video, but that's something that you might want to think about. But you do by default get those layers put in when you convert to a freeform interaction. And I'm just going to undock the triggers panel here as well. Okay, so you can see there it's also got some buttons on it. Let's just put that back. But if we go back to the main slide layer, notice, if I undock this, notice here that we've got this player trigger submit interaction drag and drop when the user clicks the submit button. Now, of course, on the slide here we don't have a submit button. The reason for that is because, and I'm just going to very quickly preview the slide at the moment. The reason that we can't see anything is because the default submit button, as you can see, is down here in the bottom right hand corner on the player. Now actually we don't want that, we want to use our own button where we're saying send email, which is effectively the submit button as well. So we need to get rid of that. So how do we do that? Well, let's first of all just close the preview off. Now normally if you're going to delete a trigger, you would highlight the trigger like that and you would click on the waste bin icon there to delete it, but you can see that's not available. The reason for that is that you need to go down to here on the base layer. You need to go to the properties cog. Let's just open that up, and can you see there you've got the submit button, which at the moment is selected. So if you just deselect that now, you can see that that trigger has disappeared, and if we were to preview the slide you would find that the submit button there has disappeared as well. So what we now need to do is to select the button that we want to use, our own send email button, which we want to use as our submit button, and we need to create a new trigger, and then we're looking for this one at the bottom here, submit interaction. Which interaction? Well, actually it's just this one here. When do we want it to happen? When the user clicks on the send email button. So there we go. So we click OK to that, and you can see now that we've got our own trigger there to submit the interaction. And that actually is how you create a simple drag and drop interaction, a freeform drag and drop interaction. Let's just very quickly preview it just to see what it looks like. And let's just have a go. I'm just going to rather randomly pull these over without thinking about them too much, and then I'm going to send my email, and I think we'll find that actually I've chosen an incorrect set of options there. Yeah, there we go. So that's good. We could retest that to make sure that it was correct, but that's fine. So that's how to use a freeform interaction within Storyline.